Okay, so what's the median, the lower quartile, upper quartile, minimum value, and maximum value of this box and whisker graph? So this is called a box and whisker graph. It's called that because it has boxes in the middle, and then on either side it has these two little lines, which is kind of like a whisker on a cat. So box and whisker graphs, I hate them, to be honest with you. I think that they are useful. I understand why we use them. They're just annoying to me, and they show up on tests a lot of times, and they just ruin everybody's day. And I think that's silly. But they are good things to know how to do, and if you can somehow commit this to memory, then it's going to make your life a lot better. So first of all, let's understand what we're dealing with. We will always be dealing with a shape that looks exactly like this, where it's two boxes that are kind of connected to each other, and with one whisker on either side. So there's a total here of 4 sections. There's the whisker, the box, and the whisker. So 4 main sections that are made out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. And you'll notice that the data is always going to be kind of on a number line. And that is important, that that number line is consistent all the way across. It's going to measure, these are the measurements that it's giving you. 3 of them you probably already know what they are, and then these 2 are probably a little bit new to you. I'm going to show you how to do them later. We're going to make our own. But for now, I just want you to know kind of where they are on this little box and whisker graph. So the median means the middle. So that's going to be exactly what it says it is. It's right in the middle. So wherever this little line is that kind of is in between the boxes, that's going to be your median. So in this case, that would be 62. Now, on this one, that median is pretty much in the middle. It actually is, yeah. So in this case, it's smack in the middle of the 2 sides. And that is not always the case. So this line could be further to this side or further to this side. It could be anywhere kind of in that box range. So wherever that line is, that will be your median. So it may not be exactly in between these 2 edges of the box, but it's still, wherever that line is, that'll be where your median is located. This is called your lower quartile. Sometimes you may want to make a note of this. It's called the first quartile. And that means the beginning of the box. So the beginning of the box is right here at 60. So that would be 60. And then the upper quartile, which is also sometimes called the third quartile, that one is up here at the top of the box. So we're really kind of giving, the quartiles are kind of the edges of the fullness of the box. So you've got the left side is the first quartile, this is the third quartile, and the median, which is sometimes referred to as the second quartile, is the thing that would be in between them somewhere. So your third quartile or your upper quartile is 64. So that is right on the edge of a thing. So that's why it looks so funny. Like I've got a little divot in that table right there. Okay, that's 64. You're gonna hate that too, aren't you? 64. So the median is in the middle, and then these are the 2 sides of the boxes. And then the whiskers are representing the minimum and maximum values. That's pretty easy to remember because they are like the smallest and biggest numbers on there. Remember, we're dealing with the number line. So the one that's furthest to the left, that's my minimum value. That's as small as I ever get. In this case, it's 58. And then the maximum value is as big as you ever get. In this case, it's 66. The above 5 numbers are called, typically we call this a 5-number summary. Put that down. A 5-number summary. Because you're kind of summarizing a lot of things about your data with just those 5 numbers. And I'll show you in just a second why those are especially important. But first, the range of the data. Now, if it just asks for the range of the data, we know that that means the maximum number minus the smallest number. So that would be pretty easy to figure out. 66 is my maximum, and 58 is my minimum. 66 minus 58 is 8. So that would have a range of 8. But there's another thing I want you to add to this, because I think this might be what it was actually referring to. There's what's called the interquartile range. And that's usually abbreviated as just the IQR, interquartile range. And that means it's still range, biggest number minus smaller number, but we're dealing with just the quartiles. So this means this is going to be your upper quartile or your third quartile minus the first quartile. So this is really doing the same thing we did earlier with biggest minus smallest, but this is dealing with just the box. So this is really saying how long is the fullness of that box. So the third quartile or the upper quartile was at 64, and then the lower quartile was at 60. So it would be 4 units long. So from 60 to 64, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's just telling you, inner quartile range tells you like essentially the length of those two boxes when you combine them, like how far apart do they go. So that's called the inner quartile range. So that's a good thing to know. Now let's talk, this is really why this thing is used. Like why does this matter? And this goes back to the word quartile that I've been using. Quartile, think of like a quarter. How many quarters are in a dollar? 4. Anytime we're talking about quarters, we're talking about fourths. And so these split your data, the way that they split them, and this specific example is like a perfect example. This would almost never be the case in real life where you've got everything is like 2 units apart. You may not even notice that, but we went up by 2 to get to the quartile, up by 2 to get to the median, up by 2 to get to the quartile, and up by 2 to get to the maximum value. That's almost never the case. That's just like a very, very like on purpose way that they did that. But really what you're dealing with here is you're splitting things up. This is your median, so that means it's in the middle. That means half of my units are bigger, 50%, and half of mine are smaller, 50%. And then I'll show you in just a second. These quartiles are found by doing the median of the median. What? You heard me. Median of the median. So if this is the bottom half, then we do the median again of just this bottom half, and that's where this quartile lands. And then we do the same thing where, again, if this cuts my data in half, then if I take away those and I just consider the data above that median, and I were to find its middle, that would be where this quartile is. Meaning that this is split up into 25% ranges. 25%, 25%, 25%, and 25%. So I said at the very beginning of this that the box and whisker graph is set up with 5 points, but those 5 points mark it off into 4 sections. Whisker, box, box, and whisker. So in each of those sections is worth 25% of my total data. So you can use those percentages or percentiles to get an idea of how many people fall in which categories. So this says what percentage of the data is below the upper quartile. So the upper quartile would be up here, that's the one furthest to the right. And to fall below that would be on this side. So I've got a 25%, 25%, and 25%. So how many fall below the upper quartile? Well, 3 25s, which is 75%, which means 75% of my people in my data set would fall in those below the 64. What percentage is located between the lower quartile and the median? There's my lower quartile, the beginning of my box, and my median. Well, that's just this section right here, so that would be 25%. What percentage of the data is above the median? Well, here's your median, and above it would be the 25 and the 25. And if you understand what median means, then that makes it even easier. That would be 50%. The whole idea of the middle is that half of my data is above it and half of my data is below it. What percentage of data is below the lower quartile? Here's my lower quartile. Below it would be just that 25% to the left of it. So that's kind of how that works. Let me break that down for you one time. Follow along with me, and then I'll make you super mad / super happy, and I'll show you how to do this even faster. And every time we do it, the fast way is good with me. So we're dealing with medians. So if we're trying to find middles, we have to have things in order. So it can be a little bit tricky when you're putting things in order because it's easy to kind of skip over stuff. So you want to be a little bit careful with it. Hopefully I don't mess it up. If I'm putting these in order, I think 4 is my smallest. Then I have a 5. I'm going to mark these out as I go. Make sure you're writing this down with me. I've got an 8. I've got 2 9s, so I'm going to put both of those. Then I have a 10, and 11, and 12. And I think I've got 2 12s. So 10, 11, 12, 12. 10, 11, 12, 12. I've got a 15, and 16, and 17. 16, 17. There's my 15. And then the biggest was 20. So I just put them in order. So if I'm trying to find my 5-number summary, remember that means you're going to find your minimum, you're going to find your Q1, your lower quartile or first quartile, you're going to find your median, you're going to find your Q3 or your upper quartile, and then you're going to find your max. I kind of put those in order. So my minimum and maximum are really easy to find. That would be 20 and 4. And then to find my median score, I've just got to find what's in the middle. So kind of, I'm just going to do it kind of gently because I don't want you to lose these numbers. Mark those off, mark these off, just like we did median yesterday. Nothing fancy. Mark these off, mark those off, mark those off, and it's just an 11 in the middle. Now, in this case, that 11 it's just an 11. So since that was a singular median, that means my middle is right there at the 11. So I'm going to kind of draw a wall. And then to find the quartiles, we're going to do a median, but we're going to just focus on one side or the other of that wall. So if I just focus on the data set to the left of that wall, we're not going to include the 11, that is the wall. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 data points down here. So I'm going to find the median of those data points. Cross out these 2, cross out these 2, and that leaves me with an 8 and a 9. And if you have an 8 and a 9, you want to take the average. What's in between 8 and 9? Well, 8.5. So that would be here. And then to find my upper quartile, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to use this data set. So pretend that's not there. That 11, once again, is kind of a wall that I'm using. So I've just got a 12, 12, 15, 16, 17, and 20 up here. And then I find the median of that data set. So cross out these 2, cross out these 2, and that leaves me with a 15 and a 16. What's in between 15 and 16, you say? And I say 15 and a half. Duh. So that would be my Q3. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this on the number line. I'm not very good at doing this, but technically for this to be accurate, we want to make a number line that's consistent. So I don't want to just put a 4 randomly here and a 20 randomly somewhere else and just fill them in randomly. Like, it needs to be pretty consistent. I'm going to do the best that I can to kind of spread them out well, but I don't always do awesome with this. So we'll see how I do. I am going to start with 4. I know that that's my smallest. And my goal is to get to 20, and I don't want it to be too cramped, but I don't want it to be too far apart where I run out of space. Does that make sense? So I don't know. I'm just going to hope I get lucky. Here's a 4. Let's go 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to mark that as 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm going to mark that as 11. Why? Well, you'll find out. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Haha, look at that. I don't know that those are exactly evenly spread apart, but it's pretty close. So, you know, you want to, these are supposed to be evenly spread, and the idea is you want to get everything between your minimum and your maximum. So, I don't know. I'm not that worried about it. That's close enough. And then we're just going to put in our 5-number summary here. So the minimum was 4. It was right there. The maximum was 20, so that's going to go over here. That's my minimum and maximum. And then my boxes are created with my quartiles, right? So the box is going to start at 8.5. That's why I marked this 8 earlier. I just knew that that's where I would end up. So I'm going to put a little line here for my 8.5. My Q3, or my upper quartile, is at 15.5. So it's here. So my boxes are going to be I'm just going to kind of connect them. This beautiful artwork I have going on. So there's the boxes, right? And then I can go ahead and connect in my whiskers at this point. Oh, that shouldn't be in there, but that's close. That's fine. So they kind of go off of the box. And the only thing we're missing is our median. The median in this case is 11, so I'm going to just kind of split my boxes there. See how that median is a little further to the left in this case? That's what I was saying earlier. It's not usually exactly even. Sometimes it's a little bit skewed, and that's pretty normal. But just remember, like, there's my 5-number summary. This is where those numbers came from. 25% of my data will be here. 25% of my data will be here. 25% will be here. And 25% will be here. So everything, 100% should be in between those things. Now, last thing, and this is where I'm going to kind of make you angry and happy at the same time. We can do all this on our calculator. Haha, let me show you how. So if you've been not watching or not listening, now's a good time to listen. You want to know how to do this, it'll make your life so much easier. It would have made your life easier yesterday when we were doing median mode 2, but I didn't tell you because I guess I'm evil, or I just wanted you to learn how to do it. You decide. So we're going to go back to our stat menu. That's where we put in our table values. So anytime we're wanting to input specific values, that's a good place to go. We're going to go to edit, and we're going to type in all of our numbers here. The good news on this is they do not have to be in order. I've already done it for you. So yeah, I already did this one earlier just to do it. So I'm just typing in the data set. So if you wanted to practice, you could type these numbers in as well. I just put in the 12, and then the 15, and then the 9, and 5. And like I said, it doesn't have to be in order, which is really good. I hate putting things in order, to be honest with you. So I like the fact that I don't have to. I just put them all in there. This right here, down here on the bottom, in case you're wondering, it says like L1 parentheses 2 equals 15. That just, the thing in parentheses is telling me like which number in the list it is. So that means like the second number in the list is 15. If I go down, it's like the third number in the list is 9. And you can scroll all the way down. I put all of them in, so we've got everything that we should need, all the way up to 13 total numbers. Now, here's the magic. We go back to our stat menu. And so remember, edit is where you put in your numbers. Calculate is where you find stuff. So we've done this before when we did regressions. So we did like linear regressions, quadratic regressions, things like that. What we're going to use this time is this first option. It says one variable stats. VAR stands for variable. And we're just going to hit enter. And enter again. And hopefully, if yours is set up correctly, and if it's not, let me know, it's going to spit out just a whole bunch of gobbledygook. All of this is meaningful, just not all of it means much to you right now when you get to a stats class in the future. And I think a lot of our statistics stuff is now in geometry. We do a lot of probability and stats in geometry, which is a little bit strange. Some changes that we've made. So you may see this again in geometry, but definitely you'll do it in Algebra 2 as well. So this is something you'll see a lot of. The first number, this X with the bar over it, that means mean. You may want to write that down somewhere just so you can remember it. That little bar over the X, that's your average. So all that time that you spent yesterday calculating the average, you could have just typed in the numbers and it would have told you what it was. So I'm sorry, but there it is. So the average of all those numbers is listed here. This is the sum of all the numbers. That's not really helpful for us now, but it will be for you in the future. This is the sum of the square of all of those numbers. Again, not really helpful now, but it will be in the future. And then these are standard deviation pieces, not something that you need. The N means how many do you have. That's like your count. Remember, we had 13 numbers. But when it comes to box and whisker graphs, what the real stuff is down here. Check this out. This is so cool. The minimum value, the Q1, which is the lower quartile, the median, the upper quartile, or Q3, and the max. That's the 5-number summary that we calculated. So all this median junk that I just did by hand, it does it for you. There's the 4, that was my minimum value. The 8.5, that was my Q1. The median was an 11. The Q3 was 15.5. And then the maximum was a 20. So whenever you're actually doing box and whisker graphs and it's asking you to make it or to find the 5-number summary, you can just use your calculator to do that, and I'm cool with that. So just a quick recap. When you go to your stat menu, that's where all the magic happens. You go to edit, that's where you can type in all of your numbers. If there's already a bunch of numbers there, you can clear it out. There's a few different ways you can do it. My favorite way has always been just to go up to the full list, hit clear, and then hit down. You're clearing everything below it, and it clears it all out. Then you can type in your values, whatever you need, I don't know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you go to back to your stat menu, go over to calculate, one variable statistic, hit enter. And obviously these are different. I just cleared out all those values, but it'll tell you this is your average. That's going to be an important one for you. So that very first one is the average. And then if you scroll down, you should find your 5-number summary down here at the bottom. So hopefully that gets you set up for success. 40 minutes. That's not too bad. That's 6 data displays in 40 minutes. I don't hate that. Peace.